computer. Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is my first ever budgeting group, and it's something I've kind of always wanted to do the last couple of years because budgeting has made a huge difference for me, and it's such a nerdy thing. It's almost like I never want to admit to how much I love doing it, but it's really life changing. And what I realize is what I'm doing with my fitness and what I'm doing with the budgeting, it's all from the same place. It's all about living an intentional life, looking at what you want in your life and working towards meeting your goals. Um, so what we're going to start with actually is dreaming, because that is the most important number one thing. What do you want with your life? What are your priorities? Because you want to make sure you're spending according to your priorities. And this was eye-opening for me. This is a project for you guys to do over the next couple of days. Obviously not right now because it's going to take some time. But I want you to have index cards or post-it notes. And on each index card or post-it note, you're going to write down a whole bunch of things. One is, what is important for you to achieve in the future? So what do you see your future being like? What do you want for your future? And then you're also going to write down all the things you have to spend money on. And we're going to go through that. I'm going to break that down more. But on each card, there's going to be the things you want to spend money on. So you have to spend money on. So it'll be like your mortgage or your electric bill, that kind of stuff. That's going to each go on a post-it note or card. Then things having to do with your kids. So, piano lessons or whatever. That's going to be on a post-it note or an index card. And then also things like, do you enjoy going out to eat? Like personally, I love going out to eat. And that's a place where a lot of people will cut when they're trying to save money because it's like a frivolous thing. But to me, it brings me a lot of joy. You want to put that on a card too. Okay, so each thing has its own index card or its own post-it. And then also things for the future, like Elliot wants a Corvette. So that's always been a dream of his whole life. On his card, he put Corvette. That your spouse also has to do. If you are married, if you have a partner in your finances, even if you keep separate finances like some couples do, there are some common goals. You have to work together. And it's also a really great conversation to have with your spouse. So what Elliot and I have done, we've done this exercise, I think twice. Each of you do your own index cards with your own priorities, and you do them separately. Don't talk about it what you do while you do it. You really want to think about what's important to you. Do your own index cards. Once you get everything down, you're going to put them in order of priority. So, some things like you can't not pay your mortgage, so obviously that's going to have to be high in the priority list. But things that are going to be based on what your like you like to dress nice and have high fashion and spend money on clothes, maybe that's a priority for you, or maybe it's not. For me, that's really low. I'll wear other people's hand-me-down clothes forever because I really don't care about that. So that would be low on my priority list, but on somebody else's it might be high. For me, higher on my priority list is going out to dinner because I like doing that, so that will be higher on my priority. So you're going to put them in order of priority. Then you and your spouse, if you have a partner, will sit together and list them out. We spread them all out over the floor. What are your priorities? And it's a great connecting activity with your partner. If you have a partner, it's a really great connecting activity because you may never have had this conversation before. And may never have talked about really what you see your future being like. You might have made assumptions that he has the same ideas that you have. Or you may have not even thought about it yourself. Like, have you allowed yourself the time to dream? Have you allowed yourself to say, wow, I really do like going out to dinner and I'm going to make this a priority. But then my husband, and this is actually our case, that's not a big priority for him. So that's a conversation for us to have because it's our shared financial situation. So I know this sounds big and daunting, but it's a really important part of the budgeting process because budgeting should be about living according to what you want in your life and living with intention. And the only way to live according to what you want in your life and living with intention is to know what you want. So that's an exercise to do. But now we'll get down to the easier part, the actual, how do you budget? So the first step to budgeting is to write down everything you have to spend money on. And I'm going to put in this group posts so that you get ideas of the things you spend money on. Most people know what their monthly bills are. And that's the easy part of the budget. They're like, well, every month I have, this bill, that bill, the mortgage, the electric, I have to pay for gas, I have to, put gas in my car, I have, all those expenses, groceries that you have every single month. Most people have an easy time coming up with those. And I like to start when I help people with budgeting, which I've helped a couple of family members with budgeting. You just start with a blank piece of paper and you're just going to list out all of your monthly expenses. Then after you list out all your monthly expenses, I want you to list out all of your expenses that happen regularly, but not necessarily monthly. And you would be surprised how many expenses are like that. Things like car insurance, it's usually every 6 months. Things like, is it showing me a speaker view? It's not? Why not? I put it on speaker view. Huh. Okay, say it one more time. That's really weird. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. I don't understand. Sorry for the interruption. So things like car insurance, things like Christmas or, the holidays, that's not a surprise that you're going to spend a whole lot of money on gifts one time a year. So that's an expense that is regular, but not monthly. So that has to go on your list. Another expense that's regular, but not monthly, that a lot of people forget about is like, oh, it just left my brain. There's a whole bunch of them. Car insurance, Christmas, just gifts in general. I buy gifts on a regular basis. Your kids go to birthday parties, your friends have birthdays, whatever. Gifts is another expense that comes regularly, shouldn't be a surprise. Oh, and also needing a new car. That's not a surprise either. Cars have a lifespan. They're going to break down at some point. You're going to need to get another one. So that's another, if you don't lease, so I don't lease, so I buy a car. So I'll go, 12 years without having to buy another car. I do have my car payments, but there's going to come a point where my car is going to die and I'm going to need another one. I'm going to have to put a whole lot up front. And so that's another thing that's not going to be a surprise. Or maintenance, car maintenance. You might think, oh my gosh, I just had this surprise bill, my transmission went. Transmissions go. Like, that's a normal thing and it shouldn't be a surprise. So in your budget, it shouldn't be a surprise either. So you want to list that as an expense too. So the next exercise will be to list expenses, and we're going to do this over time. Obviously, you're not going to complete this in like half an hour. This is a project. And then after you know all your expenses, this is where the way that I budget is different. And I use budgeting software called youneedabudget.com. I love You Need a Budget. Love it. It's envelope budgeting. So envelope budgeting is basically you take the money that you have and you use the money that you have to put in the envelopes for the things that you need to spend them on. So you don't forecast budgets. You don't say, oh, well, my paycheck is this much, so I'm gonna budget it. You have to do it with the money that you have. Bethel, are you showing up as the main person on the screen? No? No. Oh, okay. Because I keep seeing you coming in and out. I was wondering. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that you have your list of expenses. Then you're going to look at how much money you have in the bank. And whatever money you actually have, you're going to put them into those spots according to the priority of spending. So this is going to this is going to that. So I'll explain it more in different posts throughout the next few days. But basically, you're not going to budget money you don't have yet. You're not going to forecast budget. You're going to say, okay, I have this amount of money right now. And so obviously it has to go to my mortgage. It has to go to some food, that kind of stuff. And you're going to budget according to priority and allocate it to these different things that you already set up, these different categories that you already set up. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So now where does the dreaming come in? It takes a little while to see where your money is actually going. And how narrowly you want to break down your categories. In the beginning, I broke down my categories fairly narrowly because I wanted to see where I was spending my money, so that I could know where it was going. Because before I started this, I had no idea where my money was going. I was working, I was making money, I was paying my bills, and we went through all of it. By the end of the month, we weren't able to do the fun things that I hoped I'd be able to do. We weren't able to save. And I was like, I don't get this. Elliot and I both work a ton. We got to a point where we were literally working every single weekend just to make ends meet. And a lot of it was because we weren't spending intentionally. Like we were just going along and thinking we were making enough, but then realizing we weren't, and then catching up by working more. We did that for a long time. So I got the budgeting program, YouNeedABudget.com, back in 2010, I think. And it was perfect timing because in 2012, Hurricane Sandy happened. And by the time Hurricane Sandy happened, we had 6 months of money saved. We had we weren't living month to month anymore. We had this emergency fund, and we knew exactly how we were spending our money so that we could get ourselves through this horrific. I mean, we had nowhere to live. We had nothing. It was insane. Our lives were turned completely upside down. And I lost my job due to the hurricane also. So I lost my job. We lost our tenant. Our house was destroyed. Everything happened all at once. And we were okay. And that just that blew my mind that we could get through such an extraordinary financial nightmare without having to take out tons of loans. When it came to fixing our house, we did take out some loans, but that immediate time where we needed to get through me not working for 3 months. I didn't work for 3 months. We had to get through me not working for 3 months and the immediate needs that we had, which were a lot. It was really amazing. Okay. All right, Bethel. Thanks. Okay. So that was incredible to me. And that's when I realized the power of having an intentional budget was really important. So the first thing you need to do is see where you're spending your money. And initially I broke down my categories pretty fine tooth comb. I literally took my grocery bill and that was broken into categories. I was like, okay, how much am I spending on soap and shampoo and stuff like that? How much am I spending on produce? How much am I spending on all these different things? Where can I cut that bill to make it fit my needs? I realized I was spending money on candy at the checkout counter every single time I went grocery shopping. So it's like, is this candy at the checkout counter really filling me with joy? Is this really, it's not a lot of money, but is it something I really need? And is this helping me in any way? It wasn't helping me in any way. I wasn't really enjoying the candy. It wasn't helping me with, my health in general. It was costing me, I had the kids were little, so it was candy for me and the kids. every time I went grocery shopping, I was spending, $5, $6. It didn't seem like a big deal, but I really didn't need to spend that $5 or $6 every time I went grocery shopping. It wasn't giving me anything. Another place where a lot of people spend money randomly is coffee out. And also it doesn't seem like a lot, but you can make your coffee at home, and those little bits add up. So so you want to see where you're spending your money and what you can cut. And it's kind of like the Marie Kondo method of, does this bring me joy? Okay, does spending money on this, does this bring me joy? If it doesn't bring you joy, don't do it. And that's about living, intentionally with priorities. Now, there did come a point, you do that little bit of cutting on things that don't bring you joy. And then there did come a point where I was like, well, we're still not making enough money. And that blew my mind, considering Elliot and I are both professionals and have really good jobs, but we also have a really high mortgage. We also have a lot, Gwen does the swim team. That was a priority, but that's thousands of dollars in a year. So we have all of that also. And then we have the debt that we had accrued, and all the other, all this other stuff. And then of course, once the hurricane happened, that was another added. So you might realize that you fill in all those envelopes and you don't have enough money to fill in all those envelopes. And when that happens, you have to find another stream of income, because you can only cut so much. You really, you can only cut so much until you have to uproot yourself and move, or, do something very drastic, which we did consider at some point. Maybe we can't afford to live here. It's nice we live by the beach. It's nice we have this house, but maybe this is exceeding our possibilities, but we didn't want to make that change. So then we had to find other ways. So sometimes you just have to work more. You have to pick up extra jobs. You have to find another stream of income. And what I learned once I started to really spend my money intentionally and get rid of the debt that we had accrued and do all of that, it then opened up cash in other places. So that's, in this group, we will go through step by step in posts, making your expense list, but and then figuring out the envelope system. But I just wanted to give you kind of a brief overview of what it is, and then it's going to take time figuring out the budget for us as a family. It was a month-long situation. It doesn't happen in a weekend. It doesn't happen. You'll do the budget, and then you'll tweak it, then you'll do the budget again, and you'll tweak it, and you'll figure things out. And then we reassess on a regular basis. Are we spending according to our priorities? Is this what we want? And what's amazing to me, so since 2010, where we were at the point where we were working every single weekend and stressing out because we still didn't even have enough money working every weekend, we're now at a point in 2021 where we're really dreaming. We're dreaming. We have a cross-country trip planned for our 25th anniversary. We have Elliot's planning on getting his Corvette for his 50th birthday. We have saving categories for dreams now. And when we started in 2010, our savings categories were just for survival. And now, 10 years later, our savings categories include dreams. And dreams I don't think I ever thought we would have been able to accomplish 10 years ago. And then in the middle, we had a devastating hurricane. So to me, it's changed my life so much that I really felt like I wanted to share it, which is why I decided to do this free group. So I'm going to stop the recording, and I can answer a couple of questions, and then just check out the posts to help guide you through making your budget.